Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and indeed to winter, because brr, it's a bit parky. I mean, seriously, it is properly cold and the perfect weather to be working outdoors on a car. Nothing better than scratching the ice off so you can find the things you're trying to undo. The last couple of weeks, a lot of people have been commenting on the videos, putting comments on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, Facebook, you know, everywhere, what's happening with the 159. I'll be honest, I was a bit flummoxed as to what to do with the 159. Casting back to a couple of weeks ago, the mists of time. Yeah, found the car here in the field, it's been sat for 2 years. It did not want to move. It was very much reluctant to be a part of the moving car community. Reason being, the timing belt had jumped a tooth. They actually stretch slightly on the 2.4 and they get out of time, and then it messes up, breaks is a better word for putting that, the rocker fingers, the things that go between the rocker camshaft and the top of the valves basically. So I need to replace all of those. But getting to them, which should be a really easy job, like an hour's worth of taking things apart methodically and putting them to one side, has taken about a month. The reason being, everything was stuck. Nothing would come undone. It's been sat out here in the cold, in the heat, in the gunk. When I was working on the Rover K series, I described the entire engine as lasagna of layers of things. It's a bit similar with the 2.4 5-cylinder in this, because you've got the camshaft carrier, the rocker cover is actually the camshaft carrier, and you have to undo that and then you can get to the head. And in order to separate them, you have to pull out the injectors. The injectors wouldn't pull out. I had to wait about a week and a half for a specialist to come around, and even he struggled with getting these things out. And then I couldn't move the camshaft carrier. It was like it'd been welded in place. And I was absolutely baffled as to what to do. The reason I've done nothing on this car is because I honestly didn't know what to do. I'm at a dead loss, stuck, basically. But fortunately, Jamie from Go Italia, who I have asked many questions of in this and bothered him to the point of distraction, he actually had a 2.4 in the workshop the day. He'd not done one in a really long time because they're not as common as they used to be. And he said the threaded bar that comes out the top of the engine, which I thought came off with the cam carrier, and that is the thread that the nuts which clamp down on the diesel injector clamps hold on to. It actually passes through the top of the engine, through the cam carrier. It's not threaded, it's just passing through as an opening hole and goes into the head. And he said, well, if those diesel injectors were so utterly caked and glued in there, chances are similar kind of stuff is going to be on those threaded bars, and it's going to be gluing the cam carrier to themselves. So what you need to do is get those threaded bars out. But to get those out, I'm going to need extreme heat or violence or both. And to get extreme heat, I'm going to need power, because I want to be using the induction heat tool thing from Draper, that really cool thing. Check the link in the description below, it's awesome. But I haven't got power here, I'm in a field. And that means either moving it from here to my house, to my barn, or over to Go Italia and just get Jamie to do it for me, which is becoming more and more likely option. Trouble is though, once it's in one of those three places, everything has to happen immediately, and the car has to be fixed and working the day it happens, because there's no room for it at home, there's no room for it in the barn. It physically won't fit into the barn. It's too big of a car to get in and shut the doors, or get around the corner and shut the doors on it. So, and I can't keep cars outside of the barn, so it has to be, whatever happens has to work, and then it has to be complete, and that has to drive away that day. So that's quite a bit of a pressure there. But then, a few days ago, my dad said he was getting a new generator, because they have power cuts and things in the winter where they live. He said he was getting a new, bigger generator, which would actually probably run the induction tool. So I put everything on hold until the big generator arrived, and now we're going to see what we can do. And hope there aren't any more rat infestations under the bonnet. I've not lifted it yet, it's still too cold. All right, let's see what condition things are underneath the bonnet. Well, no new rat feces to speak of, I can't see any of that. They've stolen the rat bait, poison bait stuff. Brilliant. Okay, so these are the threaded bars I need to be getting off. So what I need to do is the old, if you did Meccano back in the old days and you needed to undo a bolt or something, you'd put on one bolt, then you wind on a second one, get it tight, and then you use the bolt that was trapped underneath now as a lever to undo that, and that is what I'm planning on doing here. So there we go. That, I believe, is an M8. Now I just need to remember how Dad said to start this thing. So fuel's on, there's a choke thing. Well, I've never jump started a generator before. Okay, that's now running happily in the background. We can turn this thing on. For the first time, we're using mobile inductive heat power. Try to get this thing away from the ratness. I can't really get this far enough down into the thing. This is a problem. This channel, this gully, makes it really, really hard to do things. I wonder if I can get a different nozzle end bit to get down in a bit better. Right, I'm using the flexi one to wrap around it a couple of times. It must be taking a lot of draw because you can hear the engine of the generator kicking in straight away. And this thing's then going to red, the overload after a few seconds. It's amazing. I didn't think it would draw this much power. Straight to red every time. Okay, I've changed the routing so it's not kind of touching itself. Basically, I can only zap it for a second or two. You do not realise how much you take mains power for granted on a daily basis with all the little things you do. I want this thing glowing cherry red hot. At this rate, I'm going to be here till midnight, if I ever get there. And I'm actually getting smoke off it at last. That's what I need. If I see smoke, it's getting hot. Right, can I actually turn the spanner now? Can I get a spanner on it even? Because it's really hard to get in between that little groove. Stella has not got her groove back again. That was too big. Let's try the black one. Oh no, my coffee's poured out. No, I literally can't get a flipping spanner onto it to turn. Never mind to physically turn the thing. Oh no. Great, I can turn both together, just not in the right direction. And it's so cold out here, it's already just lost all of its heat completely. Marvellous. No, it's just turning both bolts together. Fire, we need fire. If I was more of an irrational kind of person, I would be flinging this through the windscreen right now. And I've already lost one windscreen this morning because the Mercedes windscreen cracked driving through town to get here. No idea why, there was no stone chip, it was just really cold. It wasn't cracked or chipped when I de-iced the car this morning, just suddenly noticed a drip coming down the windscreen. At least I thought it was a drip, hit the wiper, didn't go away. Turned out it had cracked from up in the top down in front of my face. So, need a new windscreen on that car. Don't want to break a second one, but car, you are testing my patience. So we have reached what I think we can only call an impasse. That was my great hope. That was my big, this is gonna fix it idea kind of moment. And well, it didn't. And it's still stuck. And for the sake of completeness, just to make sure, I did come back later on with a really good blowtorch, and that didn't work either. So now I'm basically stuck. Okay, so the Alfa is proving reluctant to be fixed, and it is trying my patience. And now we have another car trying my patience. The unbreakable Mercedes C250 has finally broken after 2 years. Let's jump into that car. And you join me today in one of the unsung heroes of the furious fleet. Yes, this is Keith, the 2017 Mercedes C250 CDI AMG Premium Plus 4MATIC, the all-wheel drive estate car, the perfect car on paper. Now this is the car that doesn't get seen very much on the channel. Well, because there's basically 3 reasons that you see a car on the channel. First of all, I buy a new car, it's very exciting, I show it to you, and I'm very happy and proud, and you join in with my glee at having something new and exciting and shiny. Or shiny and broken, or mostly just broken. Second reason to show the car on the channel is because it's broken. Chaos is content, as we say in this game. And so you see me fixing the thing. Thirdly, is if I do some unlikely adventure, take the car somewhere out of its comfort zone, like driving the old Volvo all the way to Gothenburg, or touring Lincolnshire in a little Mark 1 Punto, that kind of thing. So this car is the one that does basically all the heavy lifting without raising a complaint. Over the last 2.5 years, it's done 40,000 miles. All I've done is regular servicing and change the tyres. which doesn't really make much of a video. But finally, it's had a problem. Now, we'll backtrack if you're new to the channel and don't know me and these cars. This is my second Mercedes C250. This is a W205, or technically an S205 because it's an estate. Previously, I had a S204 C250, which was a manual, and I adored it. And people constantly say, oh, you can't have a manual Mercedes, the gearbox isn't very good. Tell you what, it was brilliant, and it was so much fun and so engaging because it had sports suspension, the AMG sports suspension on it. It was so good to drive, but it wasn't ULEZ, so I basically got strong-armed into changing it for the later model, which is this one. And I went for another C250 because basically, I'm going to touch wood at this point, these things don't break. It's got the OM651 4-cylinder twin-turbo 2.1 litre diesel. With the C250, it's about a 201 or 203 horsepower tune on it. You can actually tune them up even a bit more than that, to be honest. I'm going to tempt fate here, touching wood even more. Mercedes don't generally break. This kind of Mercedes doesn't. The estate cars like this are built in Sinkelfelden, so it's a proper German-built car. The materials, the fit and finish is all really good. This car has got actual buttons for the air conditioning. It's got buttons on the door for the heated seats. It's got physical seat controls in the shape of a seat on the door. It is so user-friendly. If I went to the generation after this, everything dumps on the screen, and I hate that, and I'm never going to buy one of those. So it's a great car to be in. The seats are amazingly comfortable. You've got the full panoramic roof if you go on holidays into picturesque places. You've got lots of room, huge boot, drives really well. The ride is like butter, one for the legit street cars fans, and it's basically incredibly reliable. I didn't get off to the greatest start with it because I hate automatic gearbox cars. They're just no fun to drive. They take all the enjoyment, the pleasure, the involvement out of driving. Did get off to a slightly shaky start. I almost turned around and cancelled the whole buying the car thing and just drove off in my old manual car because I was so disenchanted with it the moment I left. But I've stuck with it. I've loved everything else about the car, but I've hated the gearbox since day one, and I'm still not a fan now. It's a 9-speed thingy-tronic, which apparently is one of the best ones out there, and it works as well as you might expect, but it's no fun and it frequently irritates me. But it's an all-wheel drive car. It's got the 4MATIC system in it, so it is the best of every world. Loads of space, sporty handling, and all-wheel drive, so I can go anywhere in this car. And the sport tyres weren't necessarily going to sort me out for winter, so when the front tyres wore out, I got a sort of Continental all-season contacts. Come winter time, come now, the back tyres hadn't worn out. Finally, this week just gone, this isn't the thing that broke, this is just general maintenance. The back tyres finally started wearing down. It was that cold snap. So I went on the Black Circle's Black Friday deal, and they had 15% off certain tyres. And I was going to get Continental all seasons to match the fronts, but they didn't have them in stock. So I'm going to get Michelin Cross Climates, which you've had on Mrs. Furious's Mini before, and they were really good. So it's now got all seasons on both ends. By doing the Michelins, I actually saved over £100 against the Continentals because of the Black Friday deal. And that means this is an expensive week for the Mercedes, because we had a little problem with this car, and that is the seat. The one failing on the current generations of Mercedes is the seats. They've got this perforated fake leather, which looks fine, it feels nice. It's not real leather though, and it splits. It cracks. A couple of weeks after I had the car, I noticed a little split in the front corner. This is just underneath my left knee, and there's a little crack in it, but it wasn't worth going all the way back to Birmingham to get it looked at, so I ignored it. But a couple of weeks ago, it split properly. The two panels just came apart. Nothing you can do about it, and because it kept rolling and wrinkling up, I thought, I'm going to be clever. I'm going to fix this with a little bit of black gaffer tape. I'm colour matching my gaffer tape to my seat. Yeah, that worked for about a day, when it started rolling the gaffer tape up and gluing my trousers to the chair, and then leaving glue all over my trousers, which was not fun at all. So yeah, then I had to drive around with a microfiber cloth on top of the gaffer tape to soak up the glue, and yeah, it's gradually getting worse and worse. This is the old lady who swallowed the fly, and the situation getting worse and worse and worse. So today I've just been down to RJ Turner Upholstery down in Paddock Wood, where they amazingly managed to sort this out in about 2 hours. They took the seat out of the car, they took the seat cover off the bottom half of the seat, they then cut, made, manufactured and stitched in a new lower section for it, which was amazing. Put the seat cover back on, and then put the seat back in, and then reset all the airbag codes and the seat memory, got back in, hit the memory button, and the seat went to where I'd left it. It was amazing. Proper quick turnaround service. £240 plus the VAT. So with the tyres and the seat, this car has cost me about £800 this week. So yeah, budget motoring at its finest. But the point of this car is to be the unbreakable car that doesn't break, the car that keeps on doing the miles without complaint, and it does that really, really well. So if I need to go off on a job for work, so it doesn't matter if I'm going into London where I've got to go and deal with heavy traffic, if I've got to go on the motorway for several hours, this car will just deal with it. It's absolutely fine. Okay, it's proving to be an awkward week in cars. The Alfa is proving reluctant to be fixed, the Mercedes is being expensive, and as I mentioned, the windscreen is now broken, which is going to be another £100 on the insurance excess. So, yay, go cars. Anyway, thank you for watching this. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different and disappointing episode in Furious Driving Life. And like, subscribe, you know the drill, all the usual stuff, and join us again next time, hopefully when something goes right.